This is one of the most powerful books ever written. If you don't have this book, you better go out and buy it somewhere and get it in your house. Read it, because if you don't believe Jesus is coming back, if you don't believe Israel's important, read this book. This will show you how many cases you think you have in your book. This book is filled with every time we have turned our backs on Israel, something happens to the United States of America. And I believe, and you believe, I think, by this fall, I don't want to say that. My mind said it could be the fall of America. People, you have no idea where we are. You have no idea where the world is. If you only knew the Bible in detail, you would realize, as the old saying was, it's later than you think.
Absolutely. And our homeland security is the God of Israel. He has covered us. He has protected us. He has restrained many, many terror events, except for the 9/11 terror event that I talk about here in Eye to Eye. 17 days before 9/11, President Bush was negotiating with Crown Prince Abdullah of Saudi Arabia on a very comprehensive plan on how Israel's to divide their land. They were going to call for the splitting of Jerusalem. They were going to call for Israel to give up Judea and Samaria. And he did something his father would never, ever dared said. He favored a Palestinian state living side by side with Israel in peace and security. But the big thing here, Jim, is an Arab state in the heartland of Israel, Judea, Samaria, and Jerusalem. Well, they finished their work in 9/10. Everything was agreed to, and then 9/11 happened. And I say that the God of Israel did not produce the evil of 9/11.
That's right.
Right.
But the God of Israel allowed that event to happen. So what Israel was facing from their enemies, the terror threats that Israel was now facing on its borders, was a terror threat the United States, the European Union, and the entire world is now facing. Our lives have changed forever.
Yes.
Starting with 9/11/2001.
Yes.
And if we extrapolate that in terms of the cost and how it has affected our daily lives, that was the point right there at 9/11. And it was because President Bush was going to publicly support a Palestinian state.
Now, the greatest storms that have ever hit America happened within hours after we asked Israel again to give up land.
Yeah, we have over 90 major record-setting events since the perfect storm was sending 30-foot waves into President Bush's house in Kennebunkport, Maine in 1991, as he's calling on Israel to give up Judea and Samaria. So we're talking about 90 record-setting events. The 14 costliest hurricanes in U.S. history, four of the 5 largest tornado outbreaks in U.S. history, the 2 largest terrorism events in U.S. history, both the World Trade Center events, and the largest insurance events in U.S. history corresponded to U.S. pressure on Israel to divide their covenant land.
And this book documents every one of them. This book should be in the hands of every American to understand God's heart is with Jerusalem. God's heart is with Israel. It's God's land.
You literally lay out, for instance, the summary of actions resulting in the catastrophes or events during the presidency of Bill Clinton. But what you do, which to me is so incredible and fascinating, we all kind of know it, but when you correlate it together against what happened to Israel and what we did to Israel, and then these catastrophes that have happened in the United States of America, it's pretty mind-boggling. And just for instance, you just start February 18th to 25th, 1993, and you go to the action, what took place, and then the date, February 26, 1993, the World Trade Center bombing. I mean, you literally just outline it. It's fabulous.
I mean, the biggest hurricanes we've ever had,
and not just Clinton,
came within hours
Bush too. I'm not
after
Democrat or
we
Republican
divided,
here.
or we're at a conference asking for the division of the Holy Land of Israel.
Absolutely. Bush, Clinton, Bush, and Obama. $90 billion record-setting events. These are the largest record-setting events in U.S. history. And the greater the pressure on Israel to divide their land, the greater the corresponding catastrophe. And the greatest of all was after 9,500 Jews were forced out of their home in Israel, out of Gush Katif, southern Gaza, and Samaria. And literally within a few hours after the eviction of Jews that God put on their heart to move to the land of Israel, Katrina began. And
one of the worst tragedies in the history of America.
By far.
See this empty space right here?
Oh, I already know where you're going.
That's what's coming this fall.
Oh.
And we better be careful what we do with Israel. We don't have a choice. He calls it my land. Is that right?
That's right. That's right.
How many times does God say, my land?
That's
not
right.
your land, not their land, my land.
Promised land, holy land. No earthly leader has the right to determine the boundaries of Israel's covenant land.
No,
An everlasting covenant, too.